let go of some of those and actually probably have some more standards, more standards, less expectations to really find the kind of person that we really want to be with.
Someone's standards can be someone's expectations and vice versa. And these are now preferences. These are preferences that have become standards because of pain, fear, their experiences of the past, the ditches that they commonly fall into. They're just trying to prevent future pain. When I ask the men, these are Christian men, by the way, do you date women who are unbelievers? I would say 90% say yes.
Wow.
90% say yes. And that is when I realized we don't have an eligibility problem. We have a marriageability problem.
To the men out there, I can't imagine what it's like being, over 30 and trying to date online or date, or because women are very consumeristic too. And I think women can be rough on men, just like horrible, even Christian women. All right, I'm not trying to like sell your program or whatever, but I just see a need for it that, you just want to encourage, like you said, men and women, but mostly men, just encourage them and help them see, like, what is it that's getting in the way? And like, how can I get it out of the way to pursue marriage and family because I want that? I mean, I think it's absolutely possible.
I think modern dating, the consumeristic aspect of it, which is predominantly why it exists and how it exists in the world, even among believers, they just kind of move through people.
Mm-hmm.
We just move through them. They check our boxes. They don't check our boxes. And then we just consume them and then we move on. We just keep sifting through people, humans, believers, brothers, sisters in Christ. And that's the part that's honestly, I know this is a strong word, but it feels right. Kalene, tell us a little bit about who you are and what initially drew you to the KSB Collective, and what were you hoping to find when you joined?
A little about who I am. Let's see. What do you want to know about me? I'm an adventurer and a bridge builder. I recently moved from the West Coast to Tennessee. Well, I guess a couple years ago. I met you in another organization, and I mean, I saw on your email, that you were part of this Kingdom Singles brand collective, and it felt like a God thing. I was single and wanting to be married and not enthusiastic about the online scene or experiences I'd had. And so I thought, what is this? Yeah, I think maybe you talked about it a little bit. And so I was just really curious and thought, hey, I need to check that out. Just basically it named me, I'm single and I want to pursue kingdom, not just Christians online. And yeah, so I thought, hey, that'd be good for me. I was interested. It felt like, I felt like God put me in your group because of that.
That's great. I'm so blessed that he did that. So who is Kalene? Who is Kalene before our paths converged? In the realm of desiring marriage and children, you were probably, like most of our community, very skilled in your craft and very advanced in your career. What was the thing that maybe was missing, or the thing that you desired?
Well, I definitely, I think for me, I don't know about other listeners, just the culture I kind of grew up in, like I said, I'm an adventurer. I just kind of West Coast, just was enjoying life, not in a selfish, irresponsible way, but I always wanted to be married and have a family. And I kind of, I guess, thought it would happen. I dated some people. And it wasn't until I was 27 that I kind of thought, oh, if I want this to happen, I might need to be intentional about it. And I guess, so some of the lies that really uncovered for me in KSB were, even in high school, girls that were dating guys or just kind of serial dating, or I was just like, that's dumb. Or I wouldn't date that person, or and again, I did date some people, but I honestly just enjoyed being single more. And so I had this narrative that actually intentionally pursuing a relationship was needy or was not healthy. Because I think a lot of the people that I was looking at that were doing it in like a not healthy way. So I, pendulumed to, let's just define that as unhealthy. So I had never intentionally really pursued it because of that narrative. And so it was really realizing, oh, that narrative is really a barrier for you. And if you want this, you do need to pursue it, but you can do it in a healthy way.
You have a really phenomenal journey, and I really want those that are listening to understand where you came from, because they could probably relate to where you were. Maybe it's where they are right now, or maybe it's where they were last week, because we're about to, buckle in and join this journey with you.
I think then another one that stands out to me of who I was before KSB when it comes to, pursuing marriage and, family is I'd also adopted a narrative. And I remember distinctly walking with a friend who was older and even in a challenging marriage, but choosing to stay in that. And just talking about my desire for marriage, that, just so many of the men just saying like, they're all just playing video games and smoking weed, and just like our culture has just taken them out. And like, there aren't a lot of great men, the kind of men that I would want to marry. And I really did have that narrative, and KSB kind of convicted me that that was not honoring of men, and that just wasn't true. And I think now, after going through KSB, and like there are many men and women that desire marriage. And I mean, if we're just judging each other, that's not very honoring. And if that's my narrative, that kind of, words are powerful. And so I'm speaking that over myself and the men around me, and basically just creating a barrier.
Kalene, I have to say that many of your revelations through the collective were not just revelatory for you, but for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember there was a mindset or a belief that you held before you joined that really shifted during your time in the KSB Collective. So you've shared quite a bit about some of the poignant moments of who you were, and some of the, what we call false narratives that we believe. And the Bible says you have what you behold. Part of our framework is that the false narrative that you believe is really the narrative that you begin to step into, that you live into. And so you're able to step out of it and interrupt your pattern, is when new things become possible for you. And the renewed mind is what the Lord reveals through us. And so a lot of the journey that we were on together in the collective really reveals a lot of that, because everyone is bearing their hearts, bearing their false narratives. And they're like, I believe that too. And and I used to believe, I'm like, me too. And there were so many like, I understand that. And here's how that happened for me. And so there was a lot of that crowdsourcing wisdom that really emerged, that became really transformational for all of us collectively, which is why it's so appropriate to call it the collective, because it really took all of us for God's wisdom to really be collected. The momentum grew even week after week as we shared the data, the real-time data that we were all experiencing with one another. I remember we had this one conversation where take the word always and never and throw it out, because I started to hear multiple people in our collective, and even in the challenges, I'm always the one, I'm always the one who did this, and I'm always the one who does that. I would never online date. I would never, do this. I would never, that's not my style. And so there was a lot of the always and the nevers. What were some of the always and the nevers that you had before that transformed and then became something new for you?
Right. Well, I mean, the one that you're reminding me of is said I wouldn't never online date, or just not online date. I just was not interested. Again, I like to do things I like to do, and I enjoy being around people. And honestly, intentionally dating just sounded like a lot of work and not fun at all. And just being online just sounded actually horrible. And I was not, and I kind of maybe was prideful and just thought, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that.
Why would you say that's prideful?
Like I think I felt like I was above it. Like, plenty of people met without doing this. I don't need to do this. I'm not going to do this. Maybe it did feel kind of, because there are things about it that don't feel kingdom. And so maybe it was, I mean, now it's felt a little consumeristic, or just this, the way it's formatted just didn't feel great, which there is some truth in some of that. But I mean, I just, yeah, was not open to it. And it, right, like you helping me to, I think having the community, and there was another woman, right? We decided to do it together, like try it together and kind of start together. And that made it doable. I don't know that I could have done it without the community of just, and then actually being able to ask questions and get feedback and get guidance. And yeah, that marketing myself, how do you, what do you put in a profile? And I think I have thought of marketing as kind of manipulative, like to get you to whatever, like something. And you helped me realize that I want to attract the kind of men that I want to attract by being honest, by being authentically myself. Like I'm not going to be fake, but I want to kind of just, the men that are not interested in the kind of person I am, I want them to be like, I'm not interested in that person. The men that would be interested. So I saw the value in that, and like, how do I present myself online? And then, yeah, being able to do it in community, really with another person, and then with the community, it made it okay and fun at times. It was hard too.
It was very challenging.
Mhm.
It was very hard. It was a group effort to transform in that area. It's quite something to discover within yourself, something you would never do for whatever reasons, and then see yourself doing it
Mhm.
and saying, wait a minute, I said I would never do that.
Mhm.
And I think what I loved about you and doing that together wasn't because the KSB endorses online dating or anything like that. It's, in fact, it is not something we endorse, actually. We've talked to no end about what are the pros and the cons, what's the outcome, what's the best case scenario, and why, what's your ambition for it? Why change now? If you've never done it before, why do it now?
Mhm.
What do you hope to get out of it? What did you learn? That type of thing. So that was a pretty big shift for you. Now that you have gotten rid of the always and the nevers,
Mhm.
transformed. Something that you said you would never do also was that you would never leave where you lived.
Did I say that? I'm an adventurer, so I definitely, maybe not in the way that I did it. No, I would expect that I would leave, but maybe not the way I did or where I went.
Where you went, exactly. So what provoked you to move 2,000 miles to where you currently live now?
Oh yeah, I guess that's a part of my journey. It was, I mean, I had felt kind of just, I just felt for a couple years, yeah, the sense to go somewhere else. So I guess I was that, hey, you are an adventurer, you have lived in this same state your whole life, you're a fourth generation. I mean, I loved it there. I love it. And I love my family's there, and I love being there, and I'm a bridge builder between culture. And so it kind of just felt like you have to go somewhere else. Like I've lived other places, but for less than a year, and I always went back. So, I mean, I had heard about really church or community out here in Tennessee through some mentors I had, and just I heard about a church, and just the heart of the church was really aligned with just my heart. And I already was seeking really a community of people more so than a job. So that's very different than how most people end up moving. And it was culturally very different. It was politically very different. There's a lot of just like a bigger city to like a smaller town. And so that was, being the bridge builder between culture and adventuring. And it was definitely not a place that I would have picked. Like when I first found about the community, it was a God, what is it? A God thought. It was not my thought. I had this thought like, oh, I would move there to be a part of that community. And immediately I was like, what? Like, where, what? Like, that's not where I would choose to live. Yeah, actually, like, just so not me. And I just immediately knew, like, oh, I see what you're doing, God. I see what you're doing here. And so it was God. Yeah.
Do you think it would shift the likelihood of a prospective future or finding a different type of person? Would there be a difference in the type of men that you would meet in the new state that you relocated to versus the one you were in?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference in how men show up or just mindsets or just culture, for sure. Yeah, definitely very different. So, and I think it's helped me just be open, like we've said, to just have standards and not expectations. Because I think I kind of where I was kind of realizing I don't know that I'm going to meet somebody here, and thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll meet somebody in this different culture. And I still like I don't fit in with the dominant culture, and I'm not going to. I don't. I'm different, and so I still am like, well, I'm still like really different. But it's yeah, I think that openness to being willing to go where God is sending you and being open to meeting different cultures and different mindsets.
Yeah. Do you feel that you were aligned, you were more in alignment with your values and your desires for your future where you live now or where you lived before, or what's the opportunity or possibility for you? Does geographics does play into that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think God could send somebody to, the place I left. And he's like, hey, you're going to meet someone here. But God sent me to Tennessee and, who knows? I think it's about that openness and being willing to let go and being willing to embrace what's uncomfortable and what's different and be challenged in that way that I think is like it's grown me a lot. For me to just like show up as myself in life, like I needed to move. And I mean, and that's how I'd want to show up in my relationship as well. And so I need to just be me.
Yeah. Now you mentioned learning the differences between or the distinctions between standards and expectations. Now, would you be able to share where you are with that now? It was a conversation that was sparked when we were in the advanced course of our collective. That was an 8-week intensive that you journeyed with someone else in the community as well. And so that conversation sparked, and there's still momentum in that conversation, in that dialogue about the difference between a standard and an expectation. Can you share a bit about how that came up for you or how that unfolded for you?
I mean, just it helps to just distinguish the difference because I think, especially, right? I mean, you're doing this because even Christians in our current culture, we get online and it's pretty consumptive, a consumeristic of, do check my boxes. Like Jesus is really important to me and like the foundation of my life. And so that's going to be like a deal breaker. But instead of it just being like, you check that box, like, oh, do, all these things I like, and just consuming a person so that would be like expectations is just having standards of, well, this is a core foundation of my life. And so this is an important standard in any relationship I'm going to be in romantically. And that was just really helpful I think we're just all confused to say, like, how can I have standards and honor people, right? When I'm online or I'm pursuing relationship, like looking for someone, like those are important and healthy, but just having boxes that I check is not honoring. I mean, I went on a date and felt like I was being interviewed. And I think a lot of people have had that experience, right? And I understood like, okay, I know what, you're trying to do, right? You're trying to, and we all can do that. Because I think when we have expectations or we're checking boxes, a lot of those things actually aren't as important as we think and are getting in our way. Like we need to let go of some of those and actually probably have some more standards, less expectations to really find the kind of person that we really want to be with.
For the sake of those that are really curious right now, can we maybe collectively come up with some examples of a standard versus an expectation?
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, oh, what are like, so standard, right? The one I gave was somebody who shares my faith. That is the standard.
Yeah, because a standard, from what you just said, someone who shares your faith, that's like never changing. That expectation, that standard is a pillar. It's not negotiable. It's not a variable, right? So I think that could be a key indicator for what a standard is versus an expectation, that it is not a variable.
Yeah. And I think other ones that are coming up are just either somebody that's, you know, um, pursuing just emotional health or just communication. Communication's tough. Communication is rough. And so if we're not intentional about how do I communicate well or effectively, like we all have our junk and our past and the stuff we've dealt with. And, nobody is perfect. We're all like messy and like learning, but somebody who's like open and, hey, I'm aware of these things and just like my strengths and my areas of growth. And I'm moving in a direction that's healthy versus someone who's just like clueless and not aware.
A healthy communicator, is that a standard or is that an expectation?
That's a standard. And I want like a healthy, yeah, like I'm not gonna be in a relationship with somebody who's not able to pursue healthy communication. Again, it's messy, but someone who's not interested in pursuing or trying at all, that's just not a healthy relationship. So it's not like you're this perfect communicator or you fixed yourself.
So we've identified what a standard is. What's an expectation?
Expectations are like this person will be this tall or will have this dress this certain way or have this kind of job or make this much amount of money. Or even me, I love to be outdoors. I love to be outside and I love to go camping, right? So it's like somebody who loves camping. I'm like, that's kind of an expectation. Kind of just like, are you this perfect person that fits into my life?
So hold on. So if that's an expectation of yours, not a standard, if you meet somebody meets you in your standard of faith and in your standard of communication, but doesn't like the outdoors, how do you reconcile
I
your
mean, I think that's where it gets tough. And I like KSB has helped me to maybe wrestle with those things and to be open. I think the biggest thing is to be open. I don't know that could be rough with somebody who's just like, I don't like the outdoors. I don't know that that could work, but somebody I don't love camping as much as you do, or I don't love backpacking, like that's kind of different. Yeah, I think maybe spending time outdoors would be a standard or something that I need to do, but it could look different than maybe the things I'm used to, or we could do some of that apart. Or
have you had any experiences where that was not in alignment, and how did it affect you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, just from what I've observed from you when you were in a season where you had more connections than you ever had before, it seemed like everyone pretty much shared that desire to be outdoors, and was like-minded in that sense. It seemed to be like a common denominator that you really leaned into when you met new people. Yeah. It seems like that was a great like foundation to lean into to get to know someone because of that base level desire or hobby. I would say it's probably a hobby, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Towards sharing that passion. Yeah. Okay, so we've given explanations and samples for what a standard is and what an expectation is. And then you also talked about something we talked a lot about in the collective, is about checking boxes. Can you explain a little bit about what your journey was around box checking?
I think just realizing when you are expecting people to check your boxes and just realizing how limiting that is and how not honoring that is and how like what is really important, which is the standards, and like what can I let go, and just how that is a barrier that I've created, the box checking.
Did it serve you in any way? How did box checking serve you before you realized that it was not kingdom?
It serves, no, it doesn't really serve you. It serves you to find this perfect person that's gonna, again, like I said, just fit into your life, but that's not how romantic relationship works, or even any relationship really. that, yeah, that's not how that works. And it's really selfish and yeah, creates barriers.
When you experienced being box checked by someone you were on a date with, how did that feel? And what were some of the questions that he asked you that made you feel like you were just there to check his boxes?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. I didn't feel like a person. I didn't feel like he wanted to get to know me as a person. I don't even remember. Yeah, just like basically asking questions that are like basically, do you check my boxes? Instead of, hey, I want to get to know you as a person and I see value in you. And which is, again, that's what you're trying to help us with because it is dating takes time and energy. And I mean, right? It can be respectful to learn things pretty quickly about somebody that you're like, well, we're wasting both of our time if our standards aren't there. So again, I think it seems like it just keeps coming back to standards versus expectations. And so instead of box checking, just how can you meet somebody and get to know them in a way that you're kind of like, hey, do our standards align? But in a way that's like honoring and you can really see each other. And
Because there's a certain outcome to box checking. So let's say he's interviewing you on your date and he's like, do you like this? Oh, do you like the outdoors? Okay, check. You want to be married? Oh, check. You want to have kids? Oh, good. Check. Do you have a career? Yes. Okay. Well, how committed are you to your career? And he's like, oh no, I can't check that box because that might be like, yay, check, she has a career. Or it could be, no, I don't want a woman with a career. Men are very specific about the type of women and the type of careers that they're willing to have or be accepted or to be acceptable for their future wife. What do you think the argument is for box checking? If we were to argue pro box checking, what would be the reason why people would say that? Why not? Why can't we? Doesn't it save time? So one would be to save time.
right. One, to make sure you're compatible, right? That you're saying these things are really important to me. I guess it depends on different people. Some people it might say this is something I can't live without. I've heard people say this is a deal breaker for me and it's something ridiculous, like somebody who's, like height. So I mean, that's a big box checking that you're like, this is really not, that shouldn't really be a deal breaker for anybody. I mean, you're definitely limiting yourself if those are some of the boxes you have.
Someone might say that, your political party is a standard and not an expectation. Right? Or somebody might say, and we've heard this before in our community, is like, wherever you are, like politically, I'm open, which is really someone that's really special in a sense that they're able to hold that open this much, right? And have a lot of grace to be able to just meet people and receive them as they are without using what they're into or what they're not into as a reason why I would want to see you again or talk to you again, or I don't want to see you at all, right? And so why does box checking help people?
I mean, if you think about it, it feels really safe and protects you from some risk and some hurt and some, which is very limiting. And we talk about this in KSB, and I learned about this. Like, we have to have boundaries too. We do need to keep ourselves safe from, there are people that are really unsafe or really unhealthy that we need to say, hey, I'm not gonna be in a relationship with you, whether it's friendship or dating or relationship. But that's different than just like, I'm going to stay in this bubble and not be uncomfortable at all or kind of take any risk. There's like a line, a balance.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point that you made there, is that it feels safe. Like, if you don't check my boxes, it gives me permission to shut you out from the start. Like, all of my barriers have now been fortified because you don't check all my boxes. That means you exist to not serve me at all or serve me 20% capacity. So now I have to just shut you off, or for the rest of the date, I'm just going to be like, whatever, I'll just write it out and be as respectful, as honoring as I could be, but I've already written you off.
Yeah.
As a human, as a believer, as a sister in Christ.
Right.
as a brother in Christ. And now we're not saying this just for men are not just doing this, women are doing this to men,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I think that's a really great example of what box checking is. I think the argument when I talk with men is that they want to protect their hearts too, and they don't want to get too invested in a woman unless they make sure they check all the important boxes. There's important boxes and then there's not important boxes. But I think what we're talking about is the standard and the expectation, right? And so one of those that I've heard is she's fit, she eats right, she knows how to cook, and here's the thing, it's like she wants to have children. Now, you don't know if the woman is fertile or not fertile. You don't know. You just have this ambition, unless she's already had children, of course. They're like, yeah, a lot of men love the idea of single moms because they know they're fertile, which is very fascinating, by the way. But also, there's a lot of single parented men out there that were like, well, I came from a single parent home. I love the idea of a single mom. And so that's something that was new for my ears, right? Because as someone who is single with no children, I've always thought, oh my gosh, that would be so hard to be in a dating relationship or desiring to be in a permanent marriage and then have a child. I mean, I have friends who are single moms and single dads as well. And that's always the priority. Always a priority is, does this person want to adopt my child, or my children?
Right.
So it's really fascinating that could be a standard for a man of God or a woman of God to be like, nope, will not marry someone with children from a previous marriage, or someone who's been divorced, or there's a lot of that. There are people who are like, yeah, if they've been in a relationship before, if they've been divorced, totally fine. So there's like someone's standards can be someone's expectations and vice versa. And these are now preferences. These are preferences that have become standards because of pain, fear, their experiences of the past. They're the ditches that they commonly fall into, right? They're just trying to prevent future pain. So it's just really interesting. That conversation can become as spicy as it can get. And we've had many spicy conversations in the KSB. Okay, so let me ask you a different question. When you found yourself in the realm of online dating, what were some of the unexpected events that unfolded for you?
Yeah, I was kind of shocked at the unhealthy communication of ghosting, which we don't even write. You can't be ghosted if you don't let yourself be ghosted. But yeah, I guess basically men that we were messaging and that just disappeared. It was just kind of shocking because I was only pursuing openly, like Christian strong. I was very open about my faith being very important to me. So that was pretty weird. And I think some people listening might relate to this. And I can only imagine what it's like to be a guy online, like tough, but just guys that would just say, how was your day? Like, how was your day? Like every day, just how was your day? And I want to be really honest, actually. But when, our culture, we just say that and we're not really thinking about it. And that's actually like a deep question if you actually care about my answer. But when you're asking that way, it's clear that you don't actually really care, or you just don't know how to have a deeper conversation. And that was really, it did not feel good.
So you would get like 25, how was your days? Is that?
It was just like every day, like that's all it was, how's your day? How was your day?
From the same person?
Yeah. So I'm kind of like ask me a different, and it was maybe somebody that I wasn't ready to be in communication with every day too. And so I'm not ready to be in communication with you every day. And that doesn't feel good to just have you say that every day. So learning to communicate that, and the kind of box checking questions online too. Yeah, I guess I was just kind of surprised, because I guess I just expected different from people identifying as Christian.
So there was a bit of am I hearing like a disappointment around the quality of matches that you were interacting with?
Yeah, it didn't feel very respectful or very honoring. It felt consumeristic still. But then even me, like online dating is set up. It's set up to be that way. So I think Christians just fall into, this is what we do, and don't really realize oh, this actually is not honoring. This is not respectful. Like, this doesn't feel good. Like, does it feel good to me? And so even for me, how do I like, right? I was being not honoring of men when I was saying like, oh, all the good men are just like taken out and there aren't any. Like, that's not honoring. So I was doing that. And so, but that's what I love about KSB is you just really help us to be honoring and notice when we're not in a non-judgmental, non-condemning way, but just a conviction way of, oh, wow, that's kind of icky. Like, I want to change that.
So, were there any positive outcomes that really helped you in that journey of online dating or in that exploration of online dating?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a ton about myself and just about how I became a better communicator. I learned to be more confident and more, I don't know if the right word is direct, in like a respectful way. When when I felt like it was box checking, or I felt like somebody didn't know how to have a conversation and just was asking, how are you every day? I could say, hey, like, I'm not in a place with you yet to really be texting you every day. And like, you ask a different question, like a more specific question, like, it actually doesn't feel good to just have you say that. So I learned, because yeah, it didn't feel good. It felt almost violating. Here's somebody that wants, it just felt like you really want to get to know me. Like, when you're every day, like, texting, how was your day? How was your day? How was your day? Like, you really want to get to know me, but that does not feel good. That does not feel good. And I'm not there with you yet. And so just being able to communicate that in a really, through text, in a really respectful way. Right. Like, I'm not a victim, or, when people just disappear, like you said, you can't be ghosted if you don't let someone ghost you. Right. So if somebody just disappears, I can respond and say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Like, if you are not want to continue talking, like, fine, just if you could let me know, that would be great. It would be nice to know. And then they're going to do what they're going to do, but it's kind of saying, like, I'm going to close the conversation, right? Or I'm going to, I guess, lay it out there and not be like, oh, I was ghosted. Yeah. So I gained a lot of confidence and really learned a lot about myself.
Okay, now this begs the question. Are you online dating now, or did you stop?
No, I did it for a year and I stopped. Yeah. So I'm not doing it now, but I'm open to trying again.
Is there anything that you might do differently or the same that you've learned in the past in your experience with online dating?
I would have a different attitude. Last time I just was not excited and just kind of dreading it. And it was a learning experience. And if I did it again, I would be more excited and I think know what to expect and know how to engage better to you myself too, right? I'm learning too, and just have more fun. So that's very different.
Now, has that experience helped you at all with in-person interactions with men in general, single men, men, period, at church, out in the world, out in the wild?
Yes, but I don't know that I could say that if I wasn't part of KSB when I was doing this, when I was doing it. So I don't know how much of it is the experience of, because I was online dating while I was in KSB, and so it all just kind of goes together. And so I would say it's really probably is more what I've learned in KSB that has impacted me, influenced me. I know I'm not the only one. It's hard when you're, older and single and desire marriage, and you go to church and you're like, see somebody and you're like, is there a ring? You're like, and you're just like, how is that right? So I mean, KSB has just really helped me to focus on honoring people and just pursue, like you said, pursuing relationship, just general relationship, like not romantic relationship. How do I just be a friend to this person next to me, whether they're a woman or a man or single or married or like way younger than me or like way older than me, but how do I just be honoring and like friendly to people around me? I remember meeting somebody at church, a guy who's about my age, and he was the nephew of a woman I knew. And I just remember just really enjoying meeting him and just feeling really confident and just really, and I wasn't like, does he have a ring? Like, is he single? And I just was like, wow, that guy's really, I really enjoyed meeting him. Like, I would love to get coffee with him or something. I would love, and it wasn't like, I felt confident and I felt like I made really good eye contact, and I was not focused on myself and my insecurities and just like, oh, are you a potential person to date? Just, hey, here's a new person at my church for the first time. Like, how can I be just like a welcoming, like kind church member? And that just felt really good. I felt like, oh, I have changed. I have really changed in a really beautiful way.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Kalene, to see
Mhm.
that transformation in you. It's really awesome.
Mhm.
Now, when I launched the podcast, um, as a marketer, you and I met in a marketing community, a kingdom entrepreneurship community that was fluent in the language of marketing. And
Mhm.
so micro niching was like a trending topic in our community. And so I really, in praying about it, decided that I would micro niche even further to speak, to target the audience of not just women, but also men, just the men primarily in the KSB podcast. What are your thoughts about that micro niching, and how does that affect what you've learned in KSB and your experience with KSB? And you're someone who I trust to hear and speak prophetically. What do you think is maybe possible because you've been through the framework, the collective, the lab, and now God is unfolding what his desire is for this community and what actually is the kingdom application and how to walk out our desire for marriage and multiplication. How does all of that unfold for you? What are your thoughts and your feelings about that? And what would you say to the men of God who are watching this message and hearing what your perspective?
I just keep thinking of the you are enough. That we all have lies we believe about ourselves that we learned somewhere. That's one that I believe often and am learning to catch. I mean, yeah, those men, you guys that are listening, that yeah, are 35 and older and desire marriage and children and probably feel like it's just not possible or just I'm not enough. I really feel like that is the biggest probably lie. And I would just say, I mean, it's just not true. It's just not true. I mean, maybe there are some things that we notice areas of growth, right? Or kind of some areas where like, hey, this is not a great quality. You're like, okay, like maybe that's true. We can learn and grow. It can be changed. Like I guess any quality that like we're all created in God's image, we're his sons and daughters. And so if we have some quality that's permanent, like a physical disability or something, I don't like that's not a barrier, like that's not a problem. If it's maybe a character, something that we're like, hey, my character's not great in this area, that we can change that. Like it's not like fixed. And we're our own worst critic. And so yeah, I think it's not as bad as we think. Really just that message that you are enough and really just having the confidence and learning, right? I think it's just learning skills, confidence, boldness. So, right, to the men out there, I can't imagine what it's like being, over 30 and trying to date online or date, or because women are very consumeristic too. And I think women can be rough on men, just like horrible, even Christian women. And so all right, I'm not trying to like sell your program or whatever, but I just see a need for it that, you just want to encourage, like you said, men and women, but mostly men, just encourage them and help them see like, what is it that's getting in the way? And like, how can I get it out of the way to pursue, yeah, marriage and family because I want that. And so I would just say, I mean, I think it's absolutely possible. And just, again, yeah, you are enough. And we can all learn if we're willing to learn and learn grace for ourselves and learn to take the risk and be uncomfortable and find a healthy community, right? That will help you move forward in the direction you want to go and not be stuck in fear or hurt, right? Like I bet a lot of us that are older have really been hurt in relationships and are scared to try again. And I say, it's worth it.
Yeah, your future is worth it, right? I feel like there's this tagline that I feel like the Lord has been really speaking to me about or inspiring me in. And that is, I would like to know where you are, where you in this statement, whether you agree, disagree, you can give it to me in percentages. The statement is, Many are eligible, few are marriageable.
Where I'm on the statement, I feel like I agree with it. With the statement that eligible meaning we desire it, not being marriageable meaning we aren't the person that is like living the life that we want to have. But again, I said we can always learn. So it's not a condemnation, but hopefully a hope.
Yeah.
That people are saying, I want this, I want this. And we, right? I mean, so many people are just, it's not happening. And so how do we get marriageable? Like, how do we get over, what are the barriers? What are the hurdles?
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a ton that I wasn't even aware of. I wasn't even aware of until I did KSB and realized, oh, I need to get out of my own way. Like I'm creating barriers that are the problem.
Yeah. And would you say that you are eligible and marriageable? Where do you feel like you are on that scale?
I would say now I am eligible and marriageable. I would say when I started KSB, I was eligible and not marriageable because of this, yeah, some of my mindsets and
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, Lean, do you have any questions for our audience, for me, for what are some of the things that are on your heart and on your mind in this conversation?
I guess, man, my question is just how do we, I guess it's for you and the audience. Maybe it's, yeah, how do we overcome this barrier that there's so many of us that are, yeah, not young, not old, but not not in our 20s that really desire marriage and family. I know there's a lot of us, there's a lot of people, and it's just not happening. And so, yeah, I would be curious from the, yeah, listeners, what you all think are the barriers. And I mean, Rowena, you know what a lot of the barriers are.
Well, I can volunteer some of the obvious that we hear a lot is that for the women, we hear a lot from the women that there's no good men out there, which is false. It's not true because we've met many amazing men in the KSB Collective. So I don't believe that's true. Now, before I would have been like, yeah, you're right. The sheer numbers will tell you that, the church is full of women. So eligible women, yeah, sure. Marriageable, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know that all of them are marriageable. Many, I think, are men. The few men that we will encounter in the church, definitely eligible. Not sure if they're marriageable.
Mhm.
Not sure for obvious. Sometimes it's for obvious reasons. That they're not marriageable. They're not open. They're closed. Very shut in into themselves, or they're very open and they're dating and asking out every eligible woman. We've also seen that that example that exists. And also, I will say this, that's not a terrible thing to want to spend time with eligible, beautiful, godly women. I do not blame any man who desires to do that. However, it does damage your marriageability. I will say it will damage your marriageability because if you are consistently serial dating within the church, those women know each other. And they all talk about you and their experiences with you. So it creates a certain reputation within the church that I think on the opposite side of that, men are afraid of. Out of my own curiosity, talk to many of the men who are eligible in the church, or even in just like coffee shops or friends of friends or at dinner parties, birthday parties, all kinds of events that we would get to go to, conferences, Christian conferences. So when I have these conversations, and I enjoy having these conversations, when I ask the men, these are Christian men, by the way, do you date women who are unbelievers? I would say 90% say yes.
Wow.
90% say yes. And that is when I realized we don't have an eligibility problem. We have a marriageability problem.
Mm-hmm.
These men are consumed by just women who have a negative standard.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they're attracted to or entertain women who are not believers are it's easier for them to show up and then show out.
Mm-hmm.
So they can be consumeristic without being judged or without feeling the conviction because those women are not believers. And that will reveal quite enough about your character and where you are in your eligibility. So this conversation of eligibility and marriageability, we had an assessment that was to measure marriageability, and the Lord corrected us in his lectures. He was like, no, go back to the basics. And it was really like, are you as eligible as you think? Because many would say yes. Many would say yes. I would say yes. I would say yes. And I would say in some seasons, no, I'm not marriageable. And in other seasons, I would say absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and I think our experiences will influence our eligibility and our marriageability. But I will also say that the KSB has done so much to help me understand my desire for marriage and for children, why it's important, why those are my standards, why multiplication is a standard. Also, too, like Kalene, what other options do we have being in the life stage that we're in where we can find community? What other options are available for us without feeling shame or condemnation or the threat of idolatry, the accusation of idolatry? And that's a question. Is desiring marriage and children idolatry, Kalene?
It is if you put it above God. But if you just have a desire, then that's different, I think. And I think, right, we've talked about surrendering that to God. And that, I mean, that's actually probably a pretty good practice for anybody, any of us, that I practice, just surrender that to God and then ask, okay, God, I give this to you. What do you want me to know? What do you want me to do? It doesn't mean I don't do anything, but it means I hold it loosely and I'm open to your guidance, right? So I'm willing to move across the country to do something I wouldn't have chosen to do, but I can see why you would ask me to do that. And it has been amazing and a journey of transformation. Yeah, like God, your ways are better than our ways.
Okay, one final question. All right. You mentioned there was a type of men that you would attract before KSB, and that you wanted to shift in the type of connections you would like to make for yourself in the future. Can you share a little bit about that and how that has transformed your posture around how you communicate with men?
I was attracting definitely men that were significantly older than me, like a good up to 20 years. And then also in my past, so that's just men that were really drawn to some of the health, I guess some of my emotional health. And I work professionally as a therapist, so kind of drawn to that in me. And I loved their hunger to be healthier and kind of, so that created some kind of codependent relationships. And God, yeah, showed me how unhealthy that was and how I'm grateful I didn't marry any of those men. I mean, they're wonderful men, but just not a healthy type of relationship to be in, and equally my fault. And so, yeah, just realizing that. And it was, I was drawn to those men because it was what I knew. I know how to counsel people. It's comfortable. And I want to help people that are hurting, like want to grow. And it was safe. So men that were healthier emotionally and actually didn't need my counsel were very intimidating, and I didn't know how to connect with them or how to talk to them, or that were really just thriving, doing well, like successful financially, or not financially, but just in life. Yeah, I was intimidated and scared of them and felt I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And again, it's not right. It's not, I just want to check like what I'm saying and what people are hearing is not about pride or being better than other people, but just your intentions and relationship. And if a relationship is just not balanced in a healthy way, I'm not better than anybody. So I was intimidated and scared of the kind of men that really would be who I would need to be with and who in a healthy relationship. Yeah, I realized that in KSB. And then learning to not be focused on myself and just be focused on how do I just show up in a room and honor people and get to know them and be a kind person in the room, getting to know anybody. That I learned that in KSB really helped me to become more confident and learn how to talk to those kinds of people.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of men I dated. And that's, again, just that what they wanted from me and what I wanted to give them, that's what was unhealthy. And part of the reason that I was not marriageable, like choosing to be in relationships in that way. Like we have the power, like we think that we're victims and we're not. We have the power to say, hey, what's not working? And so what do I need to change? You know, I think often we're like, right, like you and me, we're just like, oh, there's no good men, right? We're blaming everybody else instead of, I love that verse, right? Like, and I hear this verse in like love, you know, like take the log out of your own eye before you take the stick out of your brother's eye. It's just like, okay, God, well, if I'm pointing fingers at somebody, well, okay, like what do I need to work on? Like, what are my blind spots? Where's my part in this? And it's not, there's no condemnation, but just awareness. Oh, okay. Like I can change, I can learn.
Yeah. And you are a professional in this area. So recognizing, being self-aware that that's what you were attracting was really important.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's kind of cliche, but it says we attract who we are, right? So, but I don't necessarily agree with that. The bait you use is what you're going to catch. It's basically, I'll say that. So I think who you think the bait you were using was, I'm going to be your helper and I'm going to fix things. And then that's what you got. Shifting into recognizing it, you've confessed it, and really, I love how you went to the Lord with that, and it was transformed. What I love about KSB is like everyone transforms right before our eyes, literally change right before our eyes, and we're all like, wow. Mm-hmm. You can literally map the journey, and it's fairly rapid, a rapid transformation. And that's why, we accelerate our trajectory to marriage and multiplication in the most kingdom way possible. And honestly, too, I commend our community and our listening audience, because you're not listening to this because you want tips, tricks, and tactics. You are listening because you are kingdom first. Mm-hmm. You kingdom first, because there's so many ways that you can get to marriage and children quickly.
Right.
It's not hard. It's not hard. I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's not hard. It is not hard. You can scheme, you can manipulate, you can say things, you can make it sound really good and very Christianese too, but it's not pure.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those of us who gather, we gather because we're like-minded in the sense, and we don't want to use witchcraft or prophesy or manufacture or pull these like carnal levers, that can be pulled. And I love this community because it's those of us who refuse to compromise and just accept the carnal standards that are available for us in the church, by the way. There's just carnal standards in the church. That is a recipe that we all have seen. We've tried it and it doesn't taste good. And we've decided, what else is there? What is possible? And that's what we're here for. And I'm so excited that that's how I know Kalene, and that's how you'll get to know some of the KSB collective members in the future during this podcast, is that we'll get to hear from them. A part of our framework is that we give code names to the people that we meet. And so there is a gentleman that Kalene met, and so we're going to call him Archer. Do you want to tell us about how you met Archer, and how did the conversation about KSB arrive?
I don't remember how that arrived, but we met at an event that wasn't where either of us lived. So we had both flown there. And it turned out that he was moving to the place that I was leaving a month before I was leaving. So we really connected around that. And it was a smaller event with just like-minded people. So we connected around the event as well. And I yeah, I think that just was a connection for us. And God was sending him kind of, and he was not sure about it. And God was sending me, and I was not sure about it. We were both sure that he was sending us, but we had some discomfort. We weren't being sent to the places we would have chosen. And at both of us, God has blown us away, and we've loved the places he sent us. But yeah, so we just, we stayed in contact, and I offered to help him move stuff when he got into town. And he was wanting to just, I think, have more. She was just like, I want to get to know Kalene. Like, who is this person? And I guess I was talking about KSB. And he said, yeah, I did it because I wanted to get to know you more. And like, really, yeah, what is this KSB thing about? So yeah, that was him. And we're still really good friends to this day. Yeah, I talked to him.
I did not know that he said that was his motivation, was to get to know you better.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It feels good that, yeah, somebody's like, hey, I want to get to know you more. I'm willing to spend this time and this money and join this community and be vulnerable. And
he made quite the investment to get to know you. It's a very unusual, but very significant investment to get to know you, because it wasn't just finances. It was his time.
Yeah. And I think he was interested in just what it was about too. Yeah, he was. And I'm grateful. I mean, I'm really grateful for just the framework and just how, because really he is a very good friend. We're good friends. And, without KSB, I don't know, maybe would we have dated and then broken up, and I really value him as a brother in Christ.
Kalene, that's really powerful what you just said.
Yeah.
I think modern dating, the consumeristic aspect of it, which is predominantly why it exists and how it exists in the world, even among believers, is we just kind of move through people.
Mm-hmm.
We just move through them. They check our boxes. They don't check our boxes. And then we just consume them, and then we move on. We just keep sifting through people, humans, believers, brothers, sisters in Christ. And that's the part that's, honestly, I know this is a strong word, but it feels repulsive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that I believe, just in what I've learned from those who have participated in the KSB challenges and members in our KSB collective, is that those who have relationships with online dating have an on again and off again relationship with it because of that. Mm-hmm. The consumption of humans, mm-hmm. of believers. And what I love hearing about what you just shared about Archer is that had you not had this very safe place to get to know each other, you probably would not exist. Mm-hmm. If you didn't get married within however many weeks it was that you got to know each other, you might not even be friends, because out there in the wild, it's just consumptive, right? And you would have dated. Honestly, that is the known framework that mm-hmm. exists. You would have dated to kind of check it out. And then you're like, okay, you check all my boxes except for this stuff. And then you would have just moved on from each other's lives and wouldn't exist. And that's so unfortunate. Mm-hmm. That happens, because then one of you or both of you feel used and discarded and unable to sustain a respectable relationship, a respectable friendship that is mutual and that is honorable and that is very kingdom, by the way. There it is. I believe that's why the KSB Collective exists, for that, what you have there with Archer. And that is so beautiful. Well, thank you, Kalene, for being on the KSB podcast. We're so blessed that we've gotten to share your testimony and your journey with us. We would love to have you back if you would like to join us again, and so that we can share not just your experience, but your heart and your pursuit of marriage and multiplication in the most kingdom way possible.
Thanks. It's been fun. And I'm so grateful for you and the community. And yeah, it's an honor to be here.